All right, so still in trigonometric functions, trigonometric ratios, we're looking at how to find an angle now. And what I mean with trigonometric ratios, I'm talking about sine, cosine, and tangent. Now, here, let me see which sides I have from the angle. Remember, I used to call it theta a couple weeks ago. From the angle, I have the opposite and I have the adjacent. I remember I gave you guys a little acronym. For sine, I have sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So in this case, I want to have to use tangent. I'm just going to say tangent of x. Remember that question mark, I always call it x because I don't know what it is. So tangent of x is equal to 37 over 42. Now, 37 over 42 is a fraction. As a matter of fact, it's a decimal if I change it to decimals. It will be nice, because I'm trying to solve for x, it will be nice if my x and my fraction swap places. If I could just move the x with the fraction, that way I get the x by itself, and it would be nice if I could do that. And in a way I can. The only thing that instead of calling it tangent, I'm going to call this tangent inverse. So it looks like tangent to the negative one, but we call it tangent inverse. You will find this little key on your calculator. You will have to press either second or shift before you press this, but you can see it on your calculator. So I have the tangent inverse of 37 over 42 is equal to x. So once again, my fraction and x, they swap places, but instead of calling it tangent, I call it tangent inverse. All right, so let's take a look. I'm gonna grab my calculator. Make sure you have it on degrees. See what I have here? You could have it in radians, gradients. Make sure you have it on degrees. Now, let me see. I have to. Yeah, in my case, I have to press the fraction first. So I'm just gonna go 37 over 42. It gives me a decimal. 37 divided by 42 gives me a decimal. So I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna press second because I want to see the inverse. I want to do tangent inverse. So the tangent inverse of 37 over 42. Notice I got my fraction first, 37 over 42, and I did tangent inverse. Depending on your calculator, you might have to do tangent inverse first and then the fraction. I have 41.3. Now it says here, find and measure the indicated angle to the nearest degree. So to the nearest whole number. Right, 41.3. I'm going to the nearest whole number. I'm just going to say my angle here in this case happens to be 41 degrees. That's simple. Let's take a look at question number 2. In this case, I have the opposite and adjacent. I don't have a hypotenuse. So with O and A, I know that I use tangent from TOA. I'm just going to say tangent of x is equal to 14 over 18. So tangent inverse of 14 over 18 is equal to x. Let me grab my calculator. In my case, I had to do the fraction first. So 14 divided by 18 gives me a decimal. Then I'm just going to go second tangent inverse, and it gives me 37.8. Since I'm going to the nearest whole number, the nearest whole number here it happens to be 38. Remember I said to the nearest degree, so I'm going to the nearest whole number. Okay, so in question number 3, let's see what I have with question number 3. I have the opposite and I have the hypotenuse. From SOHCAHTOA, O and H, I know I'm dealing with sine. So I'm just going to call this sine of x is equal to 42 over 46. So that means that sine inverse of 42 over 46 is equal to x. Let me figure that out. In my case, I had to do the fraction first. So 42 divided by 46. Then I go, let me get my decimal first. And I go trig. I have to press second. This now I do sine inverse. 65.9, I have to go to the nearest whole number. So I'm just going to call this 66. Angle is 66. Nice, easy. Let's take a look at question number 4. I have in this case the opposite in the hypotenuse. So I'm dealing with or sine. I'm just going to call this sine of x is equal to 15 over 44. So sine inverse of 15 over 44 is equal to x. Let me grab my calculator for that. I'm just going to go 15 divided by 44 because in my case, I have to do the fraction first. 15 divided by 44 gives me a decimal. Then I'm just going to go my trig function. I have to press second. Sine inverse says 19.9. So the nearest whole number, I'm going to call this 20. So we're going to have to do inverse to find the nearest degree. In my examples, I had tangent and sine. In your homework, you could have either sine, cosine, or tangent.